Hello and welcome to another Whiskey review. My name is Josh Cho, I'm your host, and today I got a really nice Scotch whiskey, very special one, something I really enjoy, I've been a long fan of, so I'm really happy to be introducing this whiskey to you, the Glendronach 12-year-old. Let me just give you a little bit about history of Glendronach, just very small history. This gentleman named James Allardyce was the founder of the whiskey distillery, and I believe it was one of the earliest legal distilleries in the Highlands, if I'm not mistaken. So this is a Highland whiskey, not a Speyside, even though it is known for being very sweet. Glendronach is a whiskey now as being almost exclusively using sherry barrels, although they've used plenty of other maturation barrels with other wine varieties. Tawny Port is one of the ones that I've had, which is amazing. But the classic lineup, the 12, 15, the 18, they're all in sherry butts or some sort of sherry barrel. So this 12-year age statement bottle is aged in Spanish Oloroso as well as Pedro Jimenez, or also known as PX. So there's two different varieties of sherries going on in this one, and impact different kind of flavors of sherry when you add in PX with your Oloroso. So I'm really a big fan of Oloroso, big fan of sherry, as you already probably know if you watched my previous whiskeys with tasting the Glenlivet, 12, 15, and the 18s. I guess the 15's technically not sherry, but the 18 and the 12, I believe the 12 does. Maybe I'm wrong. It might be just the 18. But in any case, I did review a couple of sherry whiskeys in the past, and I've told you how much I'm a big fan. So I'm extremely a huge fan of Glendronach. They're doing an amazing stuff, not just because they're using sherry, but just the quality of the whiskey is just so it's so high, like in terms of the flavor and what you get out of it. All of their whiskeys are natural color, and they do not do any chilled filtration in the whiskey. So it's quite close to a traditional type of whiskey being made in the past, where none of that E150 or chill filtration's been added. It's bottled at 43%, if I'm correct. Yes, 43%. I think the 15-year-old is 46%, and the 18 is 46%. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's how it is. And it used to be 40%, actually. I saw a video not that long ago produced by Ralphie Stuff, which I'm a huge fan of. That's actually the first guy I saw doing whiskey videos on YouTube, at least at such a large scale. He's done over a couple hundred videos now. And he certainly has reviewed the Glendronach 12-year-old, which he recommended, and I went for it when I saw that video, and very happy to have learned about Glendronach through those videos, Ralphie, so I really appreciate that for your review and your recommendation. So the Glendronach 12, it used to be 40% because I remember the first video that Ralphie made, he had a 40% ABV 12-year-old bottle, and I think when it was first introduced, when it was recently acquired by Ben Riach Distilleries, which was who they, the distillery that purchased and acquired Glendronach after it was kind of in a hiatus, they released this bottle, but it was a 40%. Now, I never tried the 40%, although Ralphie has reviewed both, and I have the most recent one. I believe I bought this about 6 months ago, so early 2000s, 2016s rather. It's not that old. And I never tried the 40%, so I don't know what the differences really are, but Ralphie has got a video where he reviews both, and it's actually quite educational, where he talks about the differences when the distillery was going through its hiatus and when it got purchased by Ben Riach, and what has sort of occurred with the whiskey because of those shifts in ownership, where the whiskeys were actually in fact older in the 12-year-old lineup as opposed to it is now, due to this moment where the distillery was sort of just resting until someone had acquired it. Aside from all that, I mean, I think that the new lineup of the 12-year-old is a fantastic whiskey. I really enjoy it. So let's go straight into the taste and nose of this whiskey. The bottle, as you can see, is nicely packaged in a pretty simple tube. It's very, very straightforward. It's a nice sturdy tube though. I like it. It's got a nice feel to it. I like the embossing on the letters of Glendronach on there, and it's just a pretty standard, straightforward bottle. All of their bottles are kind of they're all clear, which is nice because you can see the actual contents of the whiskey. You can see the color. And you know that it's natural color, which is awesome. I really, really like that you guys do that at Glendronach. So kudos to you guys. So this is a 12-year-old, and it's PX and sherry. So it's going to be, well, pretty sweet, right? It's going to be as sweet as you can imagine a 12-year-old that's influenced with sherry can be. I think that I at first compared it initially, just immediately wanted to make comparisons with this in the Macallan 12, because Macallan 12 is also really well-known single malt, and it's known for being exclusively sherried, matured in sherry barrels. And so the first kind of thought is just kind of thinking about what the difference is. It's actually quite interesting because it is quite different from the Macallan 12. So straight to the color. The color of this whiskey is amber and gold. I would say it's a nice color. It's a very nice dark color. Amberish gold is the color I get. And it's somewhat oily. I mean, it's not like thick and like extremely oily like maybe like a cast strength whiskey would be, but this has certainly got its legs, and it's for 12 years it looks pretty oily. So looks good so far. To the smell. Yeah, so on my notes, the smell is very sweet off the bat. I would say at the very beginning when I purchased the bottle, the smell was initially a tad alcohol or spirit forward. It had that kind of hotness. Even at 43, it's it brought in that heat right in the beginning when I first cracked the bottle open, the first few drams. I noticed that sort of spirit forward nose started to diminish, and more of that sherry started to come out as I waited. I poured the whiskey in the Glencairn and just kind of let it aerate for a few minutes, and that helped really well with kind of reducing that spiritness. And adding a few drops of water actually really helps too if you don't want to wait for a few minutes and you want to go straight just to tasting it as soon as you pour it out. But at this moment, if you look at the bottle, it's about a little bit past halfway, and there's been enough time in that bottle for the air to kind of just settle down that spirit, that heat in the beginning. But I don't want to kind of push you so far to say that this is, at the beginning of the whiskey and you buy it, it's going to be a terrible whiskey. It's not. This sort of hotness is just very subtle, but it was there, and I wanted to just tell you that. Right now, there's really not much of that hotness I got in the beginning when I cracked it open. But really, right now, what I'm getting is just really beautiful, deep, raisiny, dark brown sugar. Burnt sugar is really, really sweet. Very, very dark. Not a light sweetness, not like a bright sweetness. Very dark sweetness for a 12-year-old. The sherry is definitely the reason why, right? And the PX, of course, too. So I get that sherry note, that's very classical sherry note. I don't know how else to describe it other than maybe if you wanted to taste sherry, smell sherry, go to a wine shop and buy a cheap, $10 bottle of sherry, and just see for yourself what it's like. It's extremely sweet. It's a dessert wine or used for cooking, and it does such a good job with maturing whiskey. So what I got on my notes for the smell is a rush of raisins, somewhat dark raisins, deep dark sugars, I think I mentioned that already, brown sugars, baked fruit pies, pastries. I do get pastries. I get that smell of like being in a very kind of desserty pastry bakery. It's got that kind of really intense sweet smell that's really warm. I get jam, that's what I wrote here, and I do get a little bit of spirit in the background when I kept smelling it. Yeah, if you dig deep and you kind of put your nose in, you can kind of get a little bit of that spirit smell in the background, but it's really nice. It's a really nice spirit smell. You get the smell of the character of the distillery, what that distillery is producing in terms of just the spirit alone, before it gets matured into those sherry barrels. And I'm definitely picking up a little bit of vanilla. That's something I did pick up. You're gonna have to mind the sound of my dog's right below me when she's chasing her tail. So, okay, so then the last bit of the smell at the end, with a little bit of that vanilla, is spices. I get really intense spices. I get clover, I get cinnamon, nutmeg, you know, all that kind of really nice common spice you get in oak barrels from Europe. It just smells fresh too. It smells really fresh. It smells like a really nice balanced whiskey, and I'm really looking forward to tasting this every time I smell it. You can really spend a lot of time smelling this whiskey. It's quite layered and complex. So, for the taste. Oh, that's beautiful. Just a very creamy, very balanced, smooth whiskey. No bite at all. Extremely no bite at all. Extremely smooth, very sweet. Dark sugars for sure. Chocolate. I get cocoa. I get milk and dark chocolate. I get that spice at the end. I get that cinnamon and nutmeg. But initial, sherry, initial flavors that sherry. It's just so intense. That sherry's such a beautiful introduction right at the start when you sip this whiskey, before it gets into the other flavors. Try it one more. Oh, that's so good. What can I say? I highly recommend it. So on the nose, I get sweet, creamy vanilla, hints of ginger, and autumn fruits. And I didn't get the ginger, but I definitely got some of the spices. And autumn fruits, I got plenty of fruits. The palate, rich, creamy, silky smooth, warm, rich oak and sherry sweetness, full mouthfeel, raisins, some fruits, spicy with a medium length, and a dry finish. And on the finish, it says long, full, and firm, slightly nutty. I did get a lot of, I did get that finish. I did get some of that nuttiness. I do agree with that. So I didn't mention that, but I do have to agree with what's on this tin. I would say that the creamy and silky smooth texture was pretty spot on too. So I think that the description on the tin is actually pretty accurate, at least to what I taste. Everyone's going to taste things differently, right? So that's the description on the tin. And I wanted to mention, when I first tasted this whiskey, right at the beginning when I cracked the bottle open, it had, just as I smelled the spirit kind of being a little bit hot, it had that also in the taste right at the beginning, like a little bit of heat. So something just to be aware of when you first get this bottle, that you might pick that up as well at the beginning, but just let the whiskey settle in this glass for a few minutes, or add a few drops of water, and you won't have to deal with that. Certainly once you pass about a third way into the bottle, there's enough air that kind of just aerates that whiskey, and you won't have to worry about adding water or waiting with your whiskey or Glencairn. It's perfect as soon as it's about a third after empty, once the whiskey's been kind of aerated inside. Okay, I don't know what else to say other than it's really a great whiskey. If I had to give a rating, I would have to say 87 out of 100. 87 is my rating for this whiskey. I am really excited about Glendronach, so I want to wish everyone at Glendronach to keep up the good job, and I hope to taste more of their whiskeys with their variety of experimentations with whiskey barrels, in wine barrels. And I'm really looking forward to reviewing the 15 and the 18. Those are coming up next, so stay tuned. Okay? Take care. Bye.